back to Court TV Live. Matt Johnson alongside Kelly Craft with you for this hour. Let's head back to Georgia now for the Colt baby murder trial.
On December 8th, 2020, police responded to a home in Canton, Georgia to find 13-month-old Hannah Driver covered in blood and with multiple stab wounds to her throat.
Police arrested then 20-year-old Chloe Driver, who lived a polyamorous lifestyle with her boyfriend and 2 other women.
The defense says the young mother had a psychotic break, but the state says Driver was of sound mind and does not meet the standard of criminal insanity.
All right, let's head back to court now for more cross-examination of the lead detective.
With the sheriff's office, correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever review those reports from the phone dumps at all?
I might have.
Okay.
Again, it was 4 years ago, so I'm sorry if I don't remember.
You don't remember if those were part of it? Okay. All right. That's okay.
You're 16. Yeah. You're 16.
Do you want me to mark them separately, or are you gonna, do we need to take them up individually, or? No. Okay. I'm gonna show you what I'm marking as D16. This is why I told you might need your reading glasses, so we'll test your sight.
I'll be okay.
All right.
It says Children of Christ Trust, Chloe A. Driver, TTE, Benjamin Ben Michael, TTE, Virginia. Account terms and conditions apply. And then they have a $98,600 balance, or actually minus $101,199.87, which leaves them $207.13.
Okay. And can you read what the last 4 digits of that account number were?
Sure, 6656.
Okay, so that Wells Fargo account.
Do you want me to read these too?
We'll get to that in a
Okay,
second.
perfect.
So that Wells Fargo account that we were talking about earlier actually had Mr. Benjamin and Michael's name on that account as well, correct?
That's correct.
And it was under the Children of Christ Trust as well, correct?
That's correct.
All right. All right, so if you want to identify the next one.
This says Wells Fargo, account number 6656, available balance $99,907.90. And then it has obviously pending transactions right below it.
Okay, and on the bottom, can you indicate where, does it identify another trust associated?
It does. They are transferring from the Lorian Christ Trust, $50,000. And it looks like 2 transactions, but it might just be 1.
Okay, but what are the dates on those?
10 to 20. And then this one is an everyday checking from Wells Fargo, checking number 5702. Available balance of $544.79 on that way to save one, and then the 6656 everyday checking $99,907.90.
Okay, so that 6656 account has both of their names on it under a trust.
Under a trust.
Okay. Where is the... Judge, I'll move to admit defense 16 at this time and request to publish. Yes, ma'am.
No objection.
It's admitted.
Trying to move that up there, but that's the information that you just read?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then again, that's the everyday checking that ended in the 6656 that we were talking about?
That's correct.
And then there's reference that they were transferring, someone at least was transferring, scroll down here, the $50,000 potentially 2 times.
Potentially.
From the Lorian Christ Trust.
That's correct.
All right, and then you previously testified in the financial documents that I showed you that you were requesting, one of the entities you were investigating was that Alorian Christ Trust, correct?
That's correct.
And that's the one that it appears to be in Mr. Benjamin Ben Michael's name, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And then this is just the two different accounts you just referenced? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. One for this morning.
Actually, it might be
Under these?
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go back to these receipts that are states 114, 113, and the overall picture in 112, okay? May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Yep. All right. With those particular transactions, can you tell me what the date of those transactions were?
11/26, and this was of 2020, and then this one says 12/1 of 2020.
Okay. And at this point in your investigation, you were familiar with the two incident dates from the Asheville Police Department, correct?
Correct.
All right. And one of those dates actually is the November 26, 2020 date, correct?
Correct.
All right. And do you have any indication on those receipts where the transactions took place, or have any idea where that might be?
It's a location that says Ware Bridge.
Okay. But that's the same, those two withdrawals for the $800 and $200 are the same dates as one of the Asheville police incidents that you were investigating, correct?
Correct.
All right.
This defense team, Kelly, is really working hard to try to establish that the situation that she had in that relationship, that polyamorous relationship, was really the breakdown of her mental state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, she wanted out of it. She wanted just to be with him. She wanted to be away from her friends. The detective is talking about this on the stand, which is really good for a defense's case.
Well, let's bring in our guest for this hour here to discuss. We have trial attorney Trey Gober. What's your take right now on this cross-examination? What sticks out to you?
But it's really slow. Even the defendant seems bored, and this is her trial. So it's hard to keep a jury after lunch interested and paying attention when you're getting in, especially these kind of financial records. It's just a slow document, intense testimony. So hopefully the defense is able to pick it up and perk up the jury in order to carry water for the defendant at the end of the day to do their job.
Trey, to that point, you do keep seeing defense counsel kind of going back, looking at her notes, maybe looking at her outline here. I mean, frankly, I think this detective, could be very helpful to the defense, and they could really get some more out of her in more of a rapid-fire way to keep the jurors more engaged in regard to the things we've talked about. The red flags. At first, she thought somebody else did this to the defendant. And there would be a lot of things that you could really go after as defense counsel to get the detective to say more how she felt this little girl, young girl, was in a really bad situation.
Exactly. And the detective keeps trying to go down those paths, but it's getting interrupted by defense counsel. So you have to be very careful as a trial lawyer to not get hyper focused on, I have this many exhibits I need to get in. What's the process and procedure to get that information in? It's more about listening than talking. And so you have an opportunity here. You have a witness that could be very credible, very compelling for the jury. And so let that witness do the talking for you. Lead them down that path rather than getting hyper focused on these documents. Get an en masse offer with some of these documents and move on.
Yeah, really good points, yeah.
Well, we're watching this very closely. We're going to fit in a short break. Trey, you're going to stick with us for this hour. Thanks for being with us. And you don't go anywhere, you at home, because we're going to have more out of the Canton, Georgia area in this trial, the baby cult murder trial, when we come back.
Welcome back. We are on a verdict watch in the baby medicine manslaughter trial, where the jury has been out deliberating for 3 hours and 35 minutes.
Defendant Dixie Villa is facing 6 to 20 years behind bars after a jury finds her guilty of killing her little baby Abigail. Little baby Abigail with a lethal dose of Benadryl while she was babysitting in 2019.
We'll take you inside that Hawaii courtroom once there is a verdict or if the jury does have a question in that case. But for now, a woman is standing trial in Georgia this afternoon, charged in the stabbing death of her own daughter.
Chloe Driver stands accused of killing 13-month-old Hannah Driver, who was found clinging to life with multiple stab wounds back in 2020.
Driver has pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Her defense argues that she was in the midst of a psychotic break at the time.
Let's get you back to court right now. We are hearing more cross-examination of the lead detective.
All right, so I know that you had testified that you submitted the phones for examination, correct?
That's correct.
And that's done by someone at the sheriff's office because they have a specific program for that, correct?
Correct.
But you don't have any independent recollection of reviewing specific instances regarding what was in the contents of any of those people's phones, correct?
So I did review the phones. I know that for a fact because I did get Google searches and things of that nature off of Chloe Driver's phone.
Okay.
And that's in my report. But as far as the context of reviewing them for finances and things of that nature, no.
So you reviewed text messages, phone.
I reviewed a lot of things.
Okay,
Let's just
so it's
say that.
possible. I'm not asking if you remember the
I
specific
can't remember the
content.
specifics.
All right, but you remember reviewing the text messages or the contents of those in particular individuals' phones, correct?
Correct.
All right. And do you recall any specific messages that stood out in your mind with respect to Ms. Driver and Mr. Benjamin?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, and you reviewed. Okay. Do you recall reviewing Facebook messages or anything like that?
And again, I've submitted a search warrant for that, and I probably reviewed it, but I cannot remember the context.
Okay, but if it was pulled directly from those phones into what we call the Cellbrite program, then you wouldn't have any reason to dispute what was returned on that, correct?
I would not.
And one of the things you do when you seize people's phones is put them immediately in airplane mode, correct?
Oh, for sure.
Because so then they can't remotely disable them or stop you from downloading whatever's in there, like erase it remotely.
Correct.
All right, and in this particular case, you don't have any specific recollection of those particular messages, but you do recall probably reviewing them in some sort of context based on what you were investigating.
That's correct.
All right, so you don't have any recollection, but you wouldn't dispute that if Ms. Driver sent text messages to Mr. Brian Joyce when he had Hannah in November of 2026, or November 26, 2020, correct? You wouldn't have any reason to
I wouldn't dispute any of that stuff.
All right. One of the things in those messages is that Ms. Driver sent to Mr. Benjamin, I know Peggy promised to keep in touch with me, but wouldn't respond to simple things because she had never been there. Everybody is under your spell. Who is Peggy? Do you remember in this investigation who Peggy was?
So Peggy was apparently a friend of Z or Benjamin and a friend of Jason Spillers from Asheville, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And one of the things you knew about this particular case is that based on that video, there was allegations that the child had been taken from Chloe at some particular point in time.
That's correct.
And that time period was approximately November 26th through the 28th or something to that degree from what you could tell?
Correct.
All right. So Ms. Driver sent a message to Mr. Ben Michael via Facebook that said, I didn't think you would ever take Nimsy away from the breast. You wouldn't have any reason to dispute that, correct?
I would not have any reason to dispute that.
All right. The same thing if Ms. Driver told him that she just wanted to peacefully leave my parents' house and get a catch of breath with Nimsy, correct? You don't have any reason to dispute that?
I would not dispute that.
And Nimsy, again, is what they referred to as Hannah?
Yes, that was her nickname they gave her.
And one of the things she communicated to Mr. Benjamin, it was that he had told her that she'll never see her parents again or never see Nimsy again. You would have no reason to dispute
I would have no reason to dispute that either.
But that seems to be kind of along the context of the information you had received in the investigation, is that there was allegations that he had taken her from him or from her, and that she was not in agreement with that at all.
No, and I believe when I interviewed him, he stated that he took an MC.
Okay. One of the other things that you were concerned about was whether or not she was being controlled by this individual in the relationship, correct?
I was definitely investigating all of that.
And one of the things, well, let me jump back. When you interviewed Eric and Renee Driver on December the 11th, and then you went down to see Chloe after that interview, correct?
That's correct.
And you talked about not giving her Miranda rights, particularly that time, because the purpose of your visit was to allow her to speak with her parents, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And in that particular thing, her dad was begging Chloe to open up to you and tell you what was really going on.
He wanted her to tell me the full story, but he also wanted to talk to her about getting an attorney.
Correct. But part of that conversation, yes, involved getting an attorney, but was also telling her that she needed to tell you everything about what was going on.
Yes, he wanted me to have her talk about what, I guess, Ben Michael was doing.
Okay. But she at no point at that particular time said that she wasn't going to talk to you or answer those questions, right? She continued to talk freely that particular day, even though her dad was asking her to get an attorney. She continued that conversation.
She was just talking to her dad.
Okay. But she didn't stop that conversation when he said any of that, correct?
No.
All right. And that she was wondering, or that he was concerned about explaining the full situation of the control and all of that stuff. He was trying to
have her not protect him.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I gathered from his comment to her.
Okay.
Okay, they're getting some interesting testimony from this witness on the stand. We're going to get in a quick break, but don't go anywhere. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice. We're coming right back.
Tonight on Closing Arguments, a mother with ties to a nomadic cult stands accused of stabbing her 13-month-old daughter. We'll bring you the very latest as prosecutors continue their case.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
This case, brutal murder of Laken Riley.
We have a suspect. He did not know her at all.
Such a violent act. Will there be justice for Laken Riley?
The murder of Laken Riley. Live coverage begins Friday, only on Court TV.
How easy.
And welcome back to Court TV Live on this busy Thursday. Thanks for being with us. Let's head back to Georgia now, where defendant Chloe Driver is accused of malice murder in the death of her 1-year-old daughter Hannah back in 2020.
Still on the stand is the lead detective in the case, so let's go back in for more.
No.
All right. And that she was wondering, or that he was concerned about explaining the full situation of the control and all of that stuff. He was trying to
have her not protect him.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I gathered from his comment to her.
Okay, but it's not uncommon for somebody that may be in that type of situation to want to protect somebody, correct? and not disclose that to somebody like law enforcement?
Probably. They didn't like law enforcement, so.
Okay. One of the other Facebook messages he and Ms. Driver exchanged in November of 2020 is that she said to him, "I'll see her when it's correct, not under complete planned control by you. You planned for this to happen from the start." Is that, do you have no reason to?
I have no reason to deny that.
And then one of the last messages with respect to that exchange, which these are all in the cell phone dump and cell phone records that have already been previously admitted as evidence that you stole a baby away from her mom. Congratulations. Again, consistent with everything that you had already been hearing in the course of this investigation, correct?
Correct.
All right. Some of the things that she was concerned about, or at least appeared that she wanted to get, at least through those messages, get a break away from him with her daughter, with her parents. Is that a fair assessment?
I would assume so.
Okay. Some of these messages seem to indicate that there was at least, some power struggle or elements of coercion or control to manipulate how he would be able to see her daughter again, correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to her asking this witness to speculate about conclusions versus just comment on what the actual evidence was.
I can move on.
Rephrase your question.
Yes, ma'am. You would agree with me that the context of those were not ones in which he was agreeable to returning the child. There was some element that there would need to be some sort of compromise on his terms. Is that a fair assessment?
I would assume so.
Okay. Do you recall any text messages or Facebook messages about Chloe telling him that she was coming to get her back, even if it took a year or two to get her back?
And again,
if it's in there, it's in there.
If it's in there, it's in there.
Okay. And so it became at least abundantly clear based on your investigation and what Ms. Driver had conveyed to you that she was, at least with respect to that incident, wanting to get her daughter back.
That's correct.
And that was actually consistent with what you had read in some of those Asheville Police Department reports, correct?
That's correct.
All right. If I can have just a second. When you received those Asheville police reports, you reviewed them, correct, in the context of this particular case, correct?
Yes.
And were the law enforcement reports the only items that you received with respect to that case? Do you remember if you received any photos or any witness statements or anything else other than the law enforcement reports?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Did you ever reach out and speak to the Asheville investigator with respect to the November 25th incident?
No, I don't believe I did.
Okay. So you didn't make any attempt to contact Ms. Torres or anybody else? You just kind of took what those reports had in them and conducted your investigation from there?
And again, yeah, it was a long time ago, so I don't believe I spoke to Ms. Torres.
Okay, but you took that information that you had received early on in this investigation and kind of used that to kind of create a pathway in how you were looking at this case, correct?
So yes.
And one of the first things that seemed to be abundantly clear in this case, aside from the initial response that it was a murder-suicide investigation, one of the things you were concerned about from the beginning was Ms. Driver's mental health, correct?
Yes.
And you actually had some conversations with Mr. and Mrs. Driver about psychological evaluations and all of that stuff, and how it could play out going forward.
Yeah, I asked if she was ever evaluated when she was younger and things of that nature.
Right, but there was also talks about when because she was hospitalized, making sure that some of those things were addressed while she was in the hospital, correct? with the psychological evaluation by Dr. Chowdhury or anything else like that?
Yeah, they were going to do all of that.
They were
yes.
going to do all that. So that was one of the things in your mind that when you continued to investigate this case was kind of on the forefront. Like that was something you were actually investigating, correct?
Correct.
And that also one of the things that you were investigating throughout this situation was the fact that Ms. Driver was potentially a victim of abuse.
I was investigating everything.
Right, and that included, because she had the black eye, you have to answer all that.
Absolutely.
Okay. And she had indicated to you that she felt like she was being controlled.
That's correct.
And you are a detective, obviously, but you've received special certifications with respect to domestic violence training, correct?
I have.
And some of those certifications include the ability to, spot some of those things that the average citizen wouldn't necessarily agree or see on their own.
That's correct.
And based on that training and experience is kind of what led you down this path with Ms. Driver, correct?
That's correct.
And it's not uncommon for somebody who presents with a physical injury to either deny or not offer an explanation as to what had happened. Is that fair?
It's not uncommon.
And it's not uncommon for a person to not want to talk to law enforcement about what level of abuse or control that they had in fact experienced, correct?
That's correct.
And it's not uncommon for, especially in a conversation where it involves a potential abuser, for them to withhold information in that context as well.
That's correct.
And, in that phone call with Mr. Ben Michael, Chloe was answering and asking questions.
That's correct.
And she was trying to say certain things, but at the same time, it appeared that she might be holding back some things. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment.
And you continued even after that to continue to investigate that particular aspect of that relationship, correct?
I did.
And that included leading you down the road to contacting Bristol Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
To talk to that Brett Tabor, correct?
That's correct.
The allegations were talking to Miss Lauren Paget.
That's correct.
And Miss Gabriella Kuykendall.
That's correct.
All right.
All right, so we're finally getting to the gist of this long cross-examination, right? So they're talking about abuse and control,
Yes.
and that's really part of the defense here.
Yes, it is.
Let's bring in our attorney guest for this hour, Trey Gober. Picked up a little bit, sir, don't you think?
It did, and I think certainly we can see the defense strategy here is forming. I don't know that this is necessarily going to be helpful to guilt innocence, to establishing that the defendant was insane and didn't understand right or wrong. This seems to be more punishment testimony, so that the jury might, if the jury pulls the trigger on a guilty verdict, maybe there's a lesser punishment because of the abuse and difficult situation the defendant's living in. But when the defendant goes upstairs and locks the door, that's a pretty good sign that she knew what she was doing was wrong. And that's a high hurdle to overcome. But at least it might mitigate on punishment.
That is a high hurdle to overcome. And as we were talking about the last hour, in regard to Georgia law, they can still get to that insanity by this, did defendant act in a delusional way that her behavior overmastered her own will? So they still could get to it by that. And with this witness on the stand talking about the fact that this person she was with, her husband, was withholding her baby, taking the baby away from her, that can make a woman go kind of crazy, I think, and then come to that moment, 2 months, nobody was doing anything to help her behavior. It was deteriorating. I mean, I think we're getting a lot from this witness if you want to go on the defense's side here.
Absolutely. It certainly is going to help the defense's position. I think we all have a sense that a mother who's healthy, sane mental state would never attempt to injure their child. So something was amiss, something was off. That's the only way a mother would injure a child, especially a 13-month-old infant. So something is off, and the defense is doing a good job with the facts they have to establish that. It's still just a very high hurdle to get insanity. at the time of the offense.
And they didn't believe in medicine,
Right.
Western medicine or anything of that nature. You know, they were just kind of living off the grid and kind of ignoring the problems in front of them.
Yeah. Well, they were talking about that CBD and how there's been testimony that the Jason Spillers from the CBD, he didn't notice any effects, but they were talking about this girl and the defendant, and when she was taking the CBD, she said that she started to act different and was paranoid. So very important testimony here. All right, thanks to Trey Gober for joining us this hour.
Still ahead, more testimony out of Atlanta, Georgia area in the cult baby murder trial.
With so many options.
And welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm in today for Michael Ayala and Judge Ashley Wilcott. Thanks for being with us. Now, we are tracking several major cases at this hour. In Hawaii, we're in a verdict watch in the baby medicine manslaughter trial for Dixie Denise Villa. In Arizona, Lori Vallow Daybell was a no-show for a hearing about her mental competency, forcing the judge to move that hearing to a later date after she is evaluated by another mental health expert. And in the state of Georgia, the state wraps its case in chief in the cult baby murder trial of Chloe Driver. Now, let's begin with this. We'll get you back into court in just a moment, but first, the jury is in deliberation mode in the fate of Dixie Denise Villa in the baby medicine manslaughter trial. That Hawaii jury now deliberating for about 4 hours at this point in time. That clock right there on your screen. Villa is accused of killing baby Abigail Lobish with a fatal dose of medicine used in the drugs like Benadryl while babysitting. During closing arguments, the defense pointed the finger at the victim's mother and talked about several inconsistencies that she told police. We'll continue to follow deliberations and bring you a verdict as soon as that is reached in the state of Hawaii. Turning now to Georgia and the baby cult murder trial of Chloe Driver. She's charged with malice murder and the stabbing death of her 13-month-old daughter, Hannah, back in December of 2020. Her attorneys claim that she was insane at the time of the murder and had a psychotic break. The state just rested its case in chief in Georgia, but we're catching you up on some of the key testimony from the trial. Right now, an investigator with the Cherokee County DA's office is on the stand for direct examination. Let's get you back to court.
Unit. Oftentimes, law enforcement will reach out to us with certain cases, and they reached out to us in this case, and so members of our office traveled to the Canton Police Department on the incident date.
On December the 8th?
Yes.
Okay. And what was happening at the police department when you went there on December the 8th?
They were conducting the interviews. All parties were brought to the Canton Police Department for interviews to further the investigation.
Okay. Did you participate in those interviews or just observe?
I just observed those interviews.
Okay. And have you been consistently assigned as the investigator on this case with the district attorney's office since that date?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you mentioned that sort of one of your responsibilities as an investigator with the district attorney's office is to review the evidence that gets provided, including cell phone extractions. Did you do that in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And we talked about Ms. Driver's cell phone in State's Exhibit 115. As part of your work on this case, did you receive the complete cell phone extraction from that device?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I collected those from the Canton Police Department, their evidence department.
Okay. And we heard testimony from Lindsay Harris, the digital forensics expert who extracted that device. But when you are going through the device, are you familiar with what's known as the UFED reader?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is that?
So the UFED reader, it actually allows us to open the cell phone extraction itself, and we're able to view the items within the cell phone. It actually allows us to search for certain terms and create reports like searched items, text messages. We can narrow down the search and pull and create reports.
Okay. And so when you were starting sort of your analysis and generating of smaller reports from that device, I think we previously heard there was an 84,000 page report generated at one point by Ms. Harris. But as it relates to narrowing it to a more relevant scope to the allegations in this case, Did you have a sort of a starting point for what you were looking at?
I did. So in Detective Cruz's report, part of my job is also to review all the reports. And in reviewing those, she had completed a search, and she notated in her report that she had searched the cell phones, and she had located some terms that were searched in the phone. So what I did is I took the phone and I further searched those items and pulled the reports. Because Detective Cruz, she did not pull the reports, but she did notate that she observed those items within the phone.
Okay, and when you use the term pull the reports, are you meaning generate like a smaller report with specific criteria pulled from the phone?
Yes, it forms a PDF, a viewable PDF form.
Okay. I'm going to hand you Members witness? Yes. I'm going to hand you State's Exhibit 128 through 132. Can you look at these and tell me whether you recognize those documents?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What are these?
These are the reports that I generated using the UFED reader, using key terms.
Okay. And do these truly and accurately reflect condensed data that you pulled from the phone extraction from Chloe Driver's device here, States 115?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time I would tender States 128 through 132. No objection.
All right, 128 through 132 are admitted.
I'd like to publish State's Exhibit 128.
Go ahead.
All right, Jared. What are we looking at here?
So this is an extraction report that I generated. And so the searched item was kill. And so this is the report that the UFED reader generated.
Okay, so you were able to go into that UFED reader, do a search term for the word kill, and these were the things that populated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so in item number 1, on the left column where they're numbered, what was the term searched on her phone?
Killing somebody to save them.
Okay, and what was the date of that?
November the 25th of 2020.
Okay. And then in 2 and 3, we see the same search terms?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then in line 4, what was searched?
Killing because the world is fake.
All right. And this is a 1-page report that you generated with 8 searched items. Was that all of the information that related to the word kill?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
As far as the searched items, yes, ma'am.
Okay, you said as far as the searched items, are there different places in the phone or categories of content you can go look in?
There are. On the left-hand side, when you're doing or you're searching the phone, there are different categories that you can search within. You can search within text messages. You can search within web history, or web searches, and you can also search in searched items. So this was inside the searched items in the phone.
Okay, so you narrowed the word kill in the things that had been searched on that phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 129. What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 129?
This is an extraction from the cell phone. Neck was the key term used. This is something also that Detective Cruz had notated in her report, so that's why I searched for neck.
Okay, and in line item 1, what do we see was searched and on what date?
How to snap a neck, and that was on December the 2nd of 2020.
Okay, and had that same term been searched on prior dates?
Yes, also on November the 30th of 2020.
Okay. And then I'd like to go to published States Exhibit 130. And tell the jury how is this web history report in States Exhibit 130 different from the searched items report we just looked at?
So like I explained earlier, this was the search within the web history rather than the searched items. So I put in the keyword neck inside the web history to search for that.
Okay. And does this show in line 1, is that a Google search?
It is.
And what did she search?
It's how to snap a neck.
Okay, and what was the date of that?
That was December the 2nd of 2020.
Okay. And then in web history, does it also show websites that are visited?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So in line 2, what was the sort of website that was visited in relation to the search term neck?
It's the www.quora.com. And it returned how hard is it to kill someone by twisting their neck. And then it says movies, make it look really easy. How much force would be needed? That was as a question.
All right, and what was the date of that?
That was December the 2nd of 2020.
Okay. And then item 3, is that a similar web page?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then items 4 and 5, is that the same Quora website you already referenced?
It is. It appears the date is different.
Okay. That was visited on multiple dates?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me go back to the first one. We have the first one being December the 2nd in line item 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then in line item 3?
December the 1st, 2020.
Okay. And item 4?
December the 1st, 2020.
And item 5?
It is November the 30th of 2020.
Okay. And item 6?
November the 30th of 2020.
Okay.
As well as 7.
Item 7 is, what is that?
That is a Google search.
Okay, of another Google search of how to snap a neck?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And item 8?
November the 30th of 2020, how to snap a neck.
Okay. And then what are these at the bottom?
These appear to be links to Walmart. I'm not sure, maybe the word neck may be embedded
in the item number?
In the item.
Okay.
Or it might have been, yes, it is embedded. I see it. It could be an item related to a neck.
Okay. All right. And then those were specific to a key term. Are you also able, in going through the UFED reader of the larger phone extraction, to narrow searched items based upon a particular date range?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were you asked to generate a report of all searches on her device for a particular date range?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the date range that you generated?
I believe that was November the 1st of 2020 to the incident date of December the 8th of 2020.
Okay. So in States Exhibit 131, that's already been admitted, we have a 61-page report. Is this everything that her searched terms between November 1st of 2020 till the incident date of December 8th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And does this larger report contain the searched items, killing someone to save them, killing someone because the world is fake? Are they contained in this larger search term report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Did you say that was November 1st?
November 1st of 2020 to December the 8th, yes. All right. And in States Exhibit 61, which is the all the search terms, were there search terms in there that indicated Ms. Driver might be looking to travel in any way?
Yes, ma'am. There were searches about a bus ticket, traveling with a child. I don't know if child was the actual term. It might have been baby, or it may have had her age, but.
Okay. I'm going to publish. This is State's Exhibit 131.
All right, we are approaching a break. We need to hit the pause button, but we do have an update out of the state of Hawaii in the baby medicine manslaughter trial of Dixie Denise Villa. You may have noticed right here on your screen, we have paused that clock, the deliberations clock, at about 4 hours because the jury is at lunch right now. They will decide if Villa is guilty of giving a deadly dose of diphenhydramine, which is commonly known as Benadryl, to a 7-month-old Abigail Lobish that she was babysitting at the time. The jury should resume deliberations in about an hour or so. We'll continue to monitor the developments out of the state of Hawaii and bring you a verdict as soon as it's reached. Meanwhile, we do have to take that break. More testimony out of the state of Georgia in the Colt baby murder trial when we come back. You're watching Court TV, your front row seat to justice.
Tonight, on Closing Arguments, a mother with ties to a nomadic cult stands accused of stabbing her 13-month-old daughter. We'll bring you the very latest as prosecutors continue their case.
Closing Arguments, tonight at 8/7 Central, only on Court TV.
Tyler, why do you think you killed your parents?
Who's going to get out of my head? Interview with a Killer. Season finale, Sunday, 8/7 Central. And don't miss the new season coming in 2025, only on Court TV.
And welcome back to Court TV Live. Now, before we head back to court, I want to bring in our guest for this hour, trial attorney Kelly Hyman, a friend of the program. Thanks for being with us and in studio. So your initial thoughts, since we haven't talked about this case much together, your initial thoughts on where we are. Today we know that the state of Georgia rests their case in chief, but I really see it going either way, and that's the chatter online with our great courties out there that are watching along. Because, even though you have these state witnesses, they are making points for the defense. What is sticking out to you?
The lead detective is coming across as very compelling, very truthful, and at times very sympathetic for the defendant. One thing that stood out to me is when she was talking about red flags and then also talking about her having a black eye, the defendant, and what she's witnessed and what she saw. And she comes across as very believable and someone who believes the defendant of what she went through.
Okay, so you're doing exactly what I was just talking about, right? Like you're seeing it, either it could go for the defense or it could go for the prosecution with just the state's case in chief, because you just mentioned the abuse and the control is what the defense really wants to portray with these witnesses. But then again, you also have the other side where the state was trying to build the case that if she was abused and she was in this so-called cult, she also had the way out because she had the checkbook, $69,000 access to, she had a cell phone. So it's really how this jury is going to weigh this evidence.
What was her intent? I think that's definitely key. Like we talk about these searches that she allegedly did, and those are very incriminating against her about looking for these searches, about breaking a neck and stuff like that. But then also the fact that the video of her showing that she's confused and that she was being controlled, that is very compelling. So it could go either way.
Which is why we love having you on the show, and you're going to be sticking with us. And those search history that we just heard about with this witness killing because the world is fake. And then also what stood out that I wrote down, how to snap a neck, which is what you've just mentioned. All right, let's head back into court there in the Atlanta, Georgia area, Canton.
And on page 51, starting with item number